episode of Mwah TV, I want to share a quick look into my brand strategy toolkit. Part of my attempt to explain in easy to understand detail exactly what I do as a brand strategist on any brand strategy project. And you can use any of these tools that we look at today in your own branding on your own business. Part of my attempt to explain in detail. Something just moved in there. You can jog on, I'm not feeding you anything. Competitive auditing is one of the most unsexy tools used. Maybe it's the word sexy that made me cough. Structure. Proactively exposing yourself to minute detail of exactly what all of your competitors are doing better than what you are is going to make yourself feel. Just speak English, Laura. I'm not asking much. Just read the script and speak English. All these riddly sentences. However, right. God, my arm's killing. Who'd have thought that that was so heavy? Now, some people understand exactly how something works if you just sit and explain it to them. And others understand how something works only if they can have a bash at it for themselves. And then there are others. The people who need to understand exactly how the sausage is made, step by step by step. And this is exactly why I'm sharing what I keep inside my Brand Strategist Toolkit with you this week. I want to show you the different tools that I use, as well as give you a quick introduction to 3 of my favorites. It's also worth pointing out at this point that this is my actual toolbox. I use this all the time when I'm doing various different DIY and upcycling projects. I share some of this behind the scenes of my life over on Instagram. If you want to come and take a look, you can have a look under hashtag DIY babes. And this is where I share DIY projects with other women I know who love DIY. At the time of recording this, I've just got started on upcycling a dining table and chairs set that has been handed down to me through the family. So it was originally my auntie's. I can remember sitting at it as a little girl. Then my cousin got it and then he was finished with it, so he gave it to me. And now I'm giving it a whole new lease of life. There are hundreds of different tools that a brand strategist can use. And what makes talking about them a little bit trickier is that different brand strategists call the same tools by different names. This is really common with different agencies. They like to come up with their own names for a tool that is the same as what somebody else would call by a different name. And that makes it way more confusing when you're trying to figure out one tool from another when you're doing a DIY approach yourself on your own branding. I liken this to using Photoshop. So anyone who has been taught Photoshop from different eras will know how to do different pathways or different sets of tools in different orders to achieve the same result. An example of this, there's like 50 different ways to sharpen an image in Photoshop. And that makes the world of photographic retouching really complicated when you're trying to delegate out something and the way you do it is really different from how a retoucher does it. And I guess with either of these examples, the main focus point is that you're looking to get the same result. The final result with the photography example is a sharp image that is aesthetically pleasing. So one person's understanding of what is an aesthetically pleasing sharpness is different from another's. The whole point is that your result is exactly how you wanted it and how you were visualizing it in your mind's eye. In today's case, we're talking about brand strategy. And with any brand strategy, the facts and the findings are going to have a hard data element to them. And it's those results that you want to be exactly the same across the board. The way you manipulate different strategic tools after this is how you get an aesthetically pleasing or an effective result with brand strategy. Competitive auditing is one of the most unsexy tools a brand strategist can use. And people always want to avoid this one for several different reasons when they're taking a DIY approach and trying to do their branding for themselves. Simply going and spending a significant amount of time poring over competitors' websites and social media is naturally going to trigger a lot of imposter syndrome style feelings. Trying to take an objective view about what your competitors are doing and how they're showing up and speaking through their branding is going to trigger you feeling bad at some point. You're going to see an example where one of your competitors has had a much better idea than you, or the way that they've laid something out is better than what you've got on your website. And this is why everyone avoids doing competitive auditing when it comes to branding. We don't want to be told which bits of our brand are ugly. The Scraper is a great manual tool to explain what competitive audits mean to me. When it comes to tackling competitive auditing, for me, it's all about scraping off the veneer, the surface of what everybody is putting out when you're looking at competitors, and really kind of trying to get under those layers and see how they're doing it, and more importantly, why we think they might be doing it in that way. When you've carried out this activity, you're going to end up with a deconstructed view of each of your competitors' brandings. You'll have everything in layer by layer, so all these little chunks of their brand, and you'll be able to look at that in a much more objective way. It's this kind of deconstructed view that I would present to my clients, and I would show them all of the building blocks from each of the competitors that we agreed I was going to go off and explore in detail. Now, when you have everything broken down like this, it's much easier to get a lot more analytical and objective. So you can start comparing different brands as well as with your own, block for block, piece for piece, layer for layer. And you can start formulating ideas about how we're going to build your brand to be much better, stronger, faster, and a whole lot more beautiful than any of the competitors out there. Now, this one is not to be confused with benchmarking. Benchmarking is a marketing term. You can use it in brand strategy as well, but it's a lot more focused on pricing. So when you're doing a benchmarking exercise, you're looking a lot more at services. So you're going to compare service like for like. What's the difference in price? What's different in the offering? Or the same for products. You're going to put the same products side by side and compare what is different and why do we think one brand is able to charge triple the amount of another brand. You should subscribe to my channel if you're looking to build the branding part of your business in an indomitable way. Let's get your brand working for you and not against you, shall we? Creative anchoring is one of my personal favorites from my brand strategy toolbox. If you've seen any of my brand photo shoots case studies here on the channel, then you will know already that I am really passionate about having a really wide and thick collection of reference points when I'm building up the inspiration that goes into the work I do behind the camera. For me, grasping at cliches and doing a cheap imitation of what everyone else is kind of doing right now in your area is just plain old lazy, and it creates half-assed work. Now, when I'm building up this collection of inspirations and reference points, it's actually so much more efficient to share these in a visual way with the rest of the creative team, or in a photography example, the rest of the crew on the shoot. Doing things this way means that I'm passing on the responsibility to the rest of my creative team to be able to go away and look at these inspirations or reference points in their own time and digest them in the way that they personally work in their creative process. When they've done this, they can then come back to me having considered the exact inspirations and reference points that I needed them to, and they can then start making really cool recommendations about ways to articulate each of these inspiration points in a way that would have been way beyond my level of understanding, because after all, I'm hiring them to do one particular creative thing much better than I ever could. Let me give you a quick example so you understand exactly what I mean here. Years ago, I was planning a photo shoot, and part of the initial brand consultancy that we did, I was uncovering stories and ideas from the client about her experiences in business so far. And she told me this really charming story about her love of tulips, and she loved having fresh flowers on her desk at work. It felt like a luxury, but it had a lot of power for her. The obvious option here is we decided to make sure we could infuse fresh tulips into the photo shoot. But turning this into a creative anchor, I was able to share this little tidbit of inspiration with each of the people on set. The stylist went away and interpreted it in her own way. She came up with, she selected a couple of tops that had this beautiful silk petal-like feel to them in texture. And then she also introduced a tulip shape cut skirt into the outfits that she was curating. And it had that essence of tulip coming through it. Similarly, the makeup artist decided to do a dewy look on the skin to pay homage to this tulip reference point. So you can see how this initial creative anchor worked its way out to each of the components on a set. Naturally, I've picked out these little beauties from my toolbox. This is a countersinking drill bit, and this is a countersunk anchoring screw. When you use these things together, the screw that you're putting into the wood with the countersunk drill bit applied is going to sink beneath or exactly flush to the surface of the wood or the surface that you're screwing into. This gives things a beautiful finesse. My carpentry buddies out there are going to fully appreciate what I'm talking about here. And really, this is just like using creative anchors. Documenting all the creative inspirations that inform why your brand is the way that it is, with the intention that you can give this smorgasbord to any creative supplier to feast on, research in their own way, and then come back prepared with their considered recommendations on how to execute their piece of work with a finesse you could never have imagined yourself. If you're enjoying learning about my different brand strategy tools today, please let me know in the comments if you want to see more. Like I said at the top of the show, there really are hundreds of different tools that you can get into. So if you want to see the toolbox return, just tell me and we can put that on the schedule. The brand pyramid tool is one of the most out there tools, in my opinion. It can feel a lot like trying to give birth when a client meets this tool for the first time. It can be a really intense workshop when you're working on this one. And I'm going to go straight to the physical tool for this one because I think if you've got a visual, you can really get it organized in your mind when it comes to using it as a brand strategy tool. It really helps with the explanation. This is one of my newer tools as well from my collection of tools. And this is a contour or profile gauge. You can see here it's got lots of little pins in it, and you would put that if you had a strange area in the house. Let's make it a pyramid shape for the purposes of the show. You would put it like that around a doorway as a good example, and then you can draw around it and cut out the exact shape that you need on your flooring. The idea of the brand pyramid is that you are looking to level up the ultimate point of your brand or the brand that you're considering. What I mean here is that you're taking things from a simple state and you work up the pyramid to the more fundamental state of the brand, or this is sometimes known as a spirit state or brand essence. That's what you have at the top of the pyramid. Let's use a pretend business as an example to make this point really clear. So at the bottom of the pyramid, let's pretend that you're a business and you're a sweet shop. So you've got a little shop in a village and what you do is you sell sweets. So the baseline level of this pyramid would be I sell sweets. When you get into this question, what is it that you do or what is it that you bring or deliver as a brand, you could go up this pyramid and say, well, actually, it's not just sweets that I sell. I give a child-centric customer service experience. And I'm so skilled and experienced at this because I've had this shop for 35 years. I know exactly how to talk directly to the children in a way that really delights the parents and guardians that bring them in there, and they're the ultimate ones who pay for those sweets. By the time you've workshopped on this together, you would get to the top of this pyramid. And let's pretend for the case of this business, because it's all about the service at this level, when you get to the top, you're going to come up with an overall summation that the spirit state of your brand is something like, we are all about articulating or communicating the heritage aspect involved in childhood nostalgia. It's way beyond sweets. We all have really potent memories of what it was like to be a child and go to the sweet shop. And actually, it's now our role as a brand in this business to pay that forward and explain that it's part of our heritage as a culture. It's way beyond just selling sweets. And when you start talking about your brand in that way, you've got way more potent reference points and the possibilities for much better inspiration to use in the creative anchors in the tool that we last explored. This is so much more potent than the idea of a simple 10-pence mix-up. But when you get to this level with your branding, you can start to indulge yourself in so many more reference points and creative inspirations to use as your particular creative anchors. So you can see how this tool relates to the last tool that we just explored. If you enjoyed learning how the brand strategy sausage is made this week, then you're going to enjoy these episodes up next. They follow on from this one beautifully. Let's get you understanding exactly what brand strategy does for your business. I'll see you next time. Mwah! Now, before you go anywhere, don't forget to subscribe. Mwah!